The only way you're going to access it is on plane.
The size of it was pretty phenomenal.
It's called the Narrows for a reason.
The glacier's on one side, mountains on the other side. 300 feet gets used up really quick at 100 mile an hour with two 40-foot airplanes.
To adventure, and the filmmaking and the photography allow me to capture those moments and helps for me to share it with other people. My name's Dan Redfield, and these are my Photoventures. So before I go on a lot of these adventures, I'm always doing research. I'd seen a lot of these pictures coming out from Colony Glacier. The only way you're going to access it is on plane, if you want to at least do it in a day. So I hit up my friend Aaron Bartel.
Grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, born and raised here. I work at a construction excavating outfit with my dad, so we dig holes and sometimes fill them back in again. So my dad and I bought a Super Cub last year, basic 1952 Super Cub, absolutely one of the best things I ever did. Probably the worst money decision I made, but you know, that's neither here nor there. So far it looks like an airplane.
Is that your conclusion?
I think it's an airplane. We go through, get the pre-flight done. Once we deem the airplane's good to go, we both put on all our snow gear. Super Cubs are not known for being warm airplanes. The part of them being lightweight means they're cold and drafty airplanes. The Super Cub is kind of like the Alaskan taxi. It's only got one seat, but for what its capabilities are pretty phenomenal. It's a great Alaskan airplane.
Okay, should we start the plane?
Let's do it.
Clear prop.
Here we go. If I leave anywhere outside of the cell reception, I'll always have at least one of my pilot friends know where I'm going. I have a spot in the airplane, so we track with the spot where we're at. It was something my dad wanted me to do when I was probably, I think, 16. He just thought it'd be kind of cool to do. I think he knew how much I'd appreciate it. Mostly, I think I just wanted to go, it was a good challenge I wanted to go do. I wanted to go get my license and kind of say I did it. And then every flight I went more, I fell in love with flying a little bit more. Something about being airborne, just kind of a little bit magical, I guess. So kind of fell in love with it, and then ever since then it's just progressed to buying an airplane and just keep trying to get up as much as I can. So we took off in the morning, pretty good weather, no big issues, a little bit of fog. One of my sure fast friends that always wants to go on an adventure with me is my buddy Rob, who lives out at Big Lake. Just a phenomenal guy, a phenomenal pilot. Super fun to be around. He's kind of a little bit quiet and reserved, so you might not always know what angle he's coming at you with. But he's always solid guy, always fun to be around. We were only there for 15 minutes, and in 15 minutes the fog rolled in and we were completely IFR, which means instrument flight rules, which means you're not flying. Probably 5 minutes later, we look out and it was sunny again. So we took our window, we hopped in the airplane and headed out towards Lake George.
We passed through Pioneer Peak, which is over 6,000 feet tall, follow the river up. I was shooting with the widest lens that I could, a 16 mil, putting the camera all the way behind me as far as I could and then taking a picture. And it's really cool. Inside his plane, you've got all these windows both on the sides and on the top, so you can get a cool view of everything going on.
Once we could see all the way over to Colony Glacier and Inner Lake George where we were headed, we turned and went in through what's called the Narrows. So you have the mountain on one side, and then on the other side you have the base of the Connect Glacier. Glaciers are like big weather generators, so they make a lot of winds. That's extremely important in an airplane, especially a tailwheel. They don't like to land downwind. They tend to do circles on you and try to land upwind. On an ice skating rink, that could be a bad day if you start going sideways because you landed the wrong direction.
Lake George is the lake that sits at the base of Colony Glacier.
So underneath that lake is actually a current where water's flowing around. So you end up with kind of inconsistent ice. You can end up with thick spots and thin spots and even holes, which obviously would be a bad thing if you fell through one.
There's nothing out there really to provide you any scale with. So when you're coming out there, you got mountains, you got a massive glacier, and then you got this big chunk of ice. To think that this chunk of ice just broke off and then just started floating out is just kind of an idea that seems almost irrational to think about, just considering the scale of this thing.
I think it was a fairly decent landing, not to toot my own horn, but this thing's like 200 yards long. If it were to move any, it could shift the ice and you could end up with holes or cracks in the ice that, you know, if your airplane went in one, it'd be a bad day. So we parked the airplane a little ways away and then went over and checked out the ice caves.
You would think for these adventures that I would have everything kind of mapped out and scripted out and here's where we're going at this time, but a lot of the fun with it is just being unscripted and just kind of going with the flow. So a lot of my adventures, including this one, I had done a little bit of research as much as I could, but I hadn't gone out there and actually put hands on this glacier. It's definitely a lot harder that way, but it makes it more of an experience for me.
Did some picture taking in there. Dan did a little magic. I'm not sure what he does, but he's got a camera he does something with. I just stand there and watch and do what I'm told. He tells me to stand in certain places now and then.
Pictures of glaciers are always cool, but anytime you can incorporate people into your shots, it just makes it just for a better picture. People just inherently like to look at other people, even if it's Aaron with his back turned towards you. They have a subject to look at. Using a 16 mil lens, I was getting a lot of wide shots, but sometimes if you want to get more of that epic landscape in and you can't swallow it all with a 16 mil lens, you do Pano Shots. Taking a series of pictures with enough overlap over the pictures so that you can combine them all together and create a panorama so you can get a better feel for the scale of the glacier.
I would say the first thing we all noticed was how blue it was. I've never seen that deep of blue in a glacier before.
You'd think you'd always hope for bluebirds, sunny days, but sometimes that just isn't, one, realistic, and two, it kind of works against you. Having the orange sun and the blue ice would have taken away some of the color saturation from the blue. By having an overcast day, you have more blue in the sky, so that blue actually brought out a lot of the color from the glacier.
Dan and I had talked about going out to a glacier, having lunch, and maybe doing a little bit of hiking or ice skating or something, some kind of an experience out there. Dan pulls out his nice little picnic rug. It was kind of like, all right, he set the tone that we're gonna have a good time.
Oh, yeah. All right, so from Fred Mailloire, I think it's French for delicious deli sandwich. If I just do the barbarian, like, tear, will that be good enough for you?
I was thinking Lady and the Tramp. You start on one end and I start on the other?
That would be great. People would stop taking pictures of the glacier and come over here.
And it gets more exciting when you get closer. Like,
Yeah.
That's where it gets a little risky. Who takes the last bite?
You know what? I'm not hungry anymore.
Can you see how big that is?
Dude, it's a big freaking sandwich.
Whose jaw fits around that?
I don't know.
That's what I want to know.
Why do they build these things this way? They're like, yeah, let's build a sandwich no one can eat.
Maybe it's the diet program, like if you can't eat it, you won't get fat.
You know, there's some truth in that one. There's like no delicate way to eat this either. It's either full-blown savage or just put it down.
This is part of the adventure.
So much bread, and the bread is so dense.
The bread is super dense on this. It's like the Alaska sized.
It's the I dare you size. It's the I bet you can't finish me size. May you win deli sandwich.
If you ever get the chance and Dan invites you to a glacier to go on a picnic, I would take him up on it. It's a good time.
Anytime you can take advantage of those unique Alaskan opportunities, you should. The fact that glaciers aren't always going to be here and that they're receding is one of the motivating factors for me to get out and explore them and document them. While from afar these glaciers look very static and still, when you get up close to them, you understand that they are kind of like a river. They're always moving, they're always calving, they're always kind of talking and making noise. They're just these big, humble creatures that don't really require a lot of attention. They just sit at the base of mountains and they just kind of be. Glaciers actually kind of remind me of like your old grandpa. They've got the texture, the wrinkle on their eyes. They've got a lot of characteristics, a lot of personality in their features. They're both really quiet. They're both really reserved, but you know that they have stories to tell. I had one more idea for a shot. From within the ice cave, looking at Aaron flying over the glacier. One of the problems was we didn't have a radio, so there was no way for us to communicate. We just had decided, just take a couple of passes and then we should be good. I knew that he wasn't going to be doing this a bunch because I knew he didn't want to spend all of his fuel. The first pass that he does, he was a little low and kind of out of the frame and not exactly where I wanted him to be. Switching it to burst mode so I can just hold the trigger down and get that exact right shot as he's flying over it. Second time he came towards me, he was perfect, but I kind of wanted the shot of him going towards the glacier. He had already taken a couple of passes by and I didn't know if he was going to do another one. So I'm sitting there inside the glacier, waiting. The very last second before I was about to turn my camera off. Now it's time to head over to Rob, get up in the air so we can get some air-to-air stuff.
He flies acrobatic jets, been flying for, I don't know, like 150 years or something, however long he's been alive. So he's got more experience than I'll ever have. Figured out our approach path, so we're gonna go fly through the narrow section. "300 feet gets used up really quick at 100 mile an hour with two 40-foot airplanes. There's so many different features we're flying around. They all can make wind burbles through there, and then the airplane, every time it hits one, it's like hitting a speed bump. When you start closing your tolerances, any wind gust, anything that happens can make a problem. Did our handoff where I took the cargo, meaning Dan, and Rob took off, went on his merry way back home, and Dan and I flew back into the sunset all the way back to Birchwood. We put some fuel in the airplane because my partner probably wouldn't like it if I left the airplane empty again. One of the things is we always do a post-flight briefing whenever we fly. Kind of recap about, the things maybe that we could have done better. I don't know, I can't do anything better. I'm already perfect, so that was kind of a short conversation.
It was a good day.
It was a good day.
Thinking about just how special of a place and how special an opportunity it was to be able to go out there. I certainly don't take it for granted. I think there's a certain amount of reflection that needs to happen, and that was kind of for me. I think Aaron was talking to me a little bit, and I was still just thinking about ice skating towards the glacier. I'm very grateful for the people that are around me and the adventures that I get to go on.
The world is watching, Aaron. Don't mess up your pre-flight.
What could go wrong?
I was gonna help you. Sriracha mayo, tangy, the hint of spice. You're really gonna appreciate the complimentary tastes.
Okay.
I think you're really gonna be impressed.
You'd think a camera guy'd have his stuff under control. I mean, isn't this what you do for a living?
You would think. All right, let me get warmed up first. Wow. How now, brown cow? Giraffe in the jungle. Giraffe in the jungle. What was the question? But it really is the staple. It really is. What am I trying to say? Does that answer your question, Mr. Director?
The only way we avoid other airplanes, we call it see and avoid. So we don't have radars in our planes or anything. It's all we're just watching and try not to run into anybody, which they try not to run into you, so it usually works out okay.